Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the sandaled feet of an ancient Egyptian barber's apprentice, discovering how the person who trimmed your beard might also save your life by removing a tumor. Picture this. It's around 2500 BCE. The pyramids are still relatively new construction projects, and the most skilled medical practitioners in the known world happen to be the same people who give you a good shave. You probably wouldn't survive this era. Between the lack of antibiotics, the creative approaches to anesthesia, and the fact that your barber might decide your headache requires a bit of skull drilling. But that's exactly why we're here tonight, safely exploring from the comfort of your modern bed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're settling in for the night, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is there. I love knowing that someone in Tokyo might be starting their morning while someone in London is winding down their evening, all of us connected by these ancient stories. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're 15 years old, though in this time and place, that makes you practically an adult. Your father, a successful grain merchant, has paid good silver to secure you this apprenticeship. At first, you thought he was setting you up to become a simple barber, someone who would spend their days trimming beards and cutting hair for the wealthy citizens of Memphis. What you didn't realize, what no one outside the trade really understands, is that barbers in ancient Egypt are so much more than that. Rolling off your sleeping mat, you pad barefoot across the cool limestone floor to where Kheti is already at work, preparing his tools for the day. He's a man in his 40s, with the steady hands and sharp eyes that come from decades of working with blades near people's throats. His own beard is perfectly trimmed, naturally, and his head is shaved in the fashion preferred by those who serve in the temples. But it's his hands you always notice first, scarred from years of handling sharp bronze, yet incredibly gentle when they need to be. "Good, you're awake," he says without looking up from the razor he's sharpening. "Today we have both Amenhotep the scribe and his wife coming for grooming. But first, I need to check on the patient from yesterday." He glances at you with a slight smile. "The man with the growth on his neck. Remember him?" Of course you remember. Yesterday, what started as a routine beard trim for a middle-aged craftsman had turned into something entirely different when your master noticed a suspicious lump just below the man's jawline. Without missing a beat, Kheti had transitioned from barber to surgeon, explaining to the nervous customer that such growths were well within his expertise to remove. The procedure had taken place right there, in the same chair, where moments before the man had been getting his facial hair styled. This is what makes Egyptian barbers unique in the ancient world, and what you're slowly beginning to understand as you progress in your training. In other civilizations, the roles are more clearly separated. There are healers, and there are barbers, and rarely do the two overlap. But here in Egypt, the connection between the two professions runs deep, rooted in religious tradition and practical necessity. The tools Kheti uses for both trades are remarkably similar. The same bronze razors that can shave a beard to perfect smoothness can also make precise incisions in human flesh. The steady hand required to trim hair without nicking the scalp translates beautifully to the delicate work of removing growths or cleaning wounds. And perhaps most importantly, both professions require an intimate level of trust between practitioner and client. After all, you're allowing someone to put a sharp blade very close to some very vulnerable parts of your body. The workshop itself reflects this dual nature. Along one wall, you see the familiar tools of the barber's trade. Razors of various sizes, bronze mirrors polished to a shine, small scissors, tweezers for plucking unwanted hairs, and an array of oils and unguents for softening beards and conditioning scalps. But alongside these are instruments that would look at home in any healer's collection. Probes for examining wounds, needles for stitching, small saws for more serious procedures, and an impressive collection of medicinal herbs and compounds. The furniture, too, serves double duty. The comfortable chair where customers sit for their grooming can be adjusted to different angles for various medical procedures. The table where Kheti mixes his hair oils also holds his surgical instruments when they need to be laid out. Even the large bronze basin used for washing hair after a cut serves as a place to clean wounds and tools during medical procedures. What strikes you most about this arrangement is how natural it seems. There's no jarring transition between barber mode and surgeon mode. Instead, Kheti moves fluidly between the two roles as the situation demands. One moment, he might be carefully shaping a customer's sideburns, and the next, he could be examining a suspicious mole that caught his attention during the grooming process. The customers seem to accept this seamlessly as well. In fact, many of them prefer it. There's something reassuring about having your medical care provided by someone who already knows your body. Someone who has been touching your face and head regularly, who has noticed changes in your skin or the way you hold your shoulders. Your barber sees you regularly, often monthly, and over time develops an intimate knowledge of your physical condition that even family members might not possess. This makes perfect sense to you. In the months since you began your apprenticeship, you've watched Kheti catch several potential problems early. A small growth that could have become serious, a skin condition that responded well to early treatment, even a broken tooth that he was able to address before it became infected. His customers have learned to trust not just his skill with a razor, but his eye for spotting trouble. The religious aspect of this dual role is something Kheti emphasizes regularly in your training. Egyptian barbers aren't just craftsmen. They're considered to have a sacred relationship with the gods, particularly those deities associated with healing and protection. The act of shaving someone's head or beard isn't just about appearance. It's also about purification, about removing the old and making way for the new. When that same practitioner then uses his skills to remove a growth or heal a wound, he's continuing that same divine work of purification and renewal. You've learned that this religious connection gives barber surgeons a special status in Egyptian society. They're not quite priests, but they're more than simple craftsmen. They occupy a unique position that allows them to work intimately with people's bodies in ways that would be inappropriate for others. This sacred aspect of the work is something Kheti takes seriously, beginning each day with prayers and maintaining strict standards of cleanliness that go far beyond what mere vanity would require. The sound of footsteps on the stone walkway outside signals the arrival of the first customer. Kheti glances at you with a smile that's both reassuring and slightly mischievous. Ready to see how we balance beauty and health today? He asks. Remember, every customer is both a canvas for artistry and a patient who might need our healing skills. The day is just beginning, and already you can sense that it will be full of the gentle surprises that make this profession endlessly fascinating. The customer who enters is a menotep, a royal scribe whose meticulously maintained appearance reflects his high status in the palace hierarchy. His linen garments are pristine white, his jewelry is tasteful but expensive, and his beard, well, his beard is exactly why he's here. In Egyptian society, facial hair isn't just about personal preference. It's a complex language of status, profession, and religious observance that your master reads as easily as a menotep reads hieroglyphs. Kheti, my friend, a menotep says, settling into the chair with the easy familiarity of a long-term customer. The usual, but perhaps a bit more precision around the edges. I'm presenting a new taxation proposal to the vizier next week. He pauses, running his fingers along his jawline. And there's this small irritation near my ear that's been bothering me. Here it is, the seamless transition that defines your master's work. What begins as a grooming appointment is already evolving into something more comprehensive. Kheti nods, his experienced fingers already exploring the area Amenhotep mentioned. I see it, he murmurs. Small inflammation, probably from your stylus scratching when you write. We'll take care of that after we perfect your beard. You watch as Kheti begins the ritual that has made Egyptian barbers legendary throughout the ancient world. First comes the preparation of the sacred oils, a blend that varies slightly for each customer based on their skin type, the season, and any particular needs Kheti has identified. For Amenhotep, it's a mixture that includes cedar oil for its preservative qualities, frankincense for its pleasant scent, and a touch of myrrh that will help with the minor skin irritation. The application of these oils is almost ceremonial. Kheti's movements are deliberate and rhythmic as he works the mixture into Amenhotep's beard and the surrounding skin. This isn't just about making the hair easier to cut. It's about purification, about preparing the body for the sacred act of grooming. You've learned that this preparation phase often reveals problems that might otherwise go unnoticed. As the oils soften the hair and open the pores, small growths, unusual marks, or areas of inflammation become more visible. Your skin is looking good overall, Kheti observes, his fingers continuing their methodical exploration. But I notice some dryness along your hairline. Have you been spending more time in the sun lately? This is the kind of detailed attention that sets Egyptian barber surgeons apart. They don't just cut hair, they monitor their customers' overall health, often catching problems long before they become serious. The bronze razor Kheti selects for Amenhotep's beard is a work of art in itself. Forged by skilled metalworkers, it's been honed to an edge so sharp it can split a hair lengthwise. But more than just sharp, it's perfectly balanced, allowing for the kind of precise control necessary when working millimeters from major blood vessels. You've spent countless hours learning to maintain these tools, understanding that a barber surgeon's instruments are literally matters of life and death. As Kheti begins the actual shaving process, you observe the incredible skill that comes from decades of practice. Each stroke of the razor is deliberate and confident, removing exactly the right amount of hair to achieve the precise look that Amenhotep's status requires. Egyptian beard fashions are complex. Different lengths and shapes communicate different messages about a man's profession, age, and social position. A scribe's beard should be neat and scholarly, neither too austere nor too luxurious. But even as Kheti focuses on the aesthetic aspects of his work, you notice how his attention never wavers from the medical details. His fingers are constantly assessing the condition of Amenhotep's skin, checking for anything unusual, monitoring how the customer responds to the process. When he encounters the small irritation near the ear, his approach shifts subtly but definitively. This is going to sting just a bit, Kheti warns, reaching for a different tool, a small bronze probe that he uses to examine the inflamed area more closely. It's infected, but superficially. We can clean it out now, or you can come back when it's worse, and we'll have to do something more dramatic. His tone is matter-of-fact, but you can hear the underlying message. Prevention is always preferable to cure. Amenhotep doesn't hesitate. "Do it now," he says. "I trust your judgment completely." This level of trust is something you've come to understand is essential to the barber surgeon's work. Customers must have absolute confidence in their practitioner's abilities, because they're literally putting their lives in his hands. What follows is a perfect demonstration of how Egyptian barber surgeons seamlessly blend their dual roles, using the same steady hands that just moments before were creating artistic precision in Amenhotep's beard. Kheti carefully cleanses the infected area, applies a mixture of honey and herbs known for their healing properties, and provides detailed instructions for aftercare. The entire procedure takes perhaps 5 minutes, but it's likely prevented weeks of discomfort and possible complications. The honey will help prevent further infection, Kheti explains as he works. Keep the area clean, avoid touching it with unwashed hands, and come back in a week so I can check on the healing. He pauses in his work to look directly at Amenhotep. "And try to hold your stylus differently when you write. The way you're gripping it is causing you to scratch yourself when you concentrate." This kind of holistic attention to health is what makes Egyptian barber surgeons so effective. They don't just treat symptoms, they identify and address underlying causes. In Amenhotep's case, a simple change in how he holds his writing instrument will prevent the problem from recurring. It's preventive medicine at its most practical level. As Kheti puts the finishing touches on Amenhotep's grooming, applying oils that will keep the newly trimmed beard looking perfect for days, he continues his informal health assessment. "How has your sleep been?" he asks casually. "I notice some slight puffiness around your eyes." This isn't idle conversation. Sleep problems can indicate a range of health issues, and Kheti has learned to read the signs that appear in a person's face and bearing. Actually, I have been having trouble sleeping, Amenhotep admits. Too much worry about the new tax calculations. Immediately, Kheti's attention sharpens. Stress-related health problems are common among palace officials, and he's developed effective treatments for many of them. I have something that might help, Kheti says, moving to his collection of medicinal preparations. A tea blend that promotes restful sleep without making you groggy in the morning. And, he adds with a slight smile, I'll throw in some advice about breathing exercises my old master taught me. They work particularly well for people whose minds refuse to quiet down at night. You watch as Kheti prepares a small packet of dried herbs, chamomile, valerian, and a few other ingredients whose names you're still learning. His knowledge of medicinal plants is extensive, built up over years of treating everything from insomnia to serious injuries. What impresses you most is how he tailors each remedy to the individual customer, taking into account their constitution, lifestyle, and specific needs. The transaction that concludes Amenhotep's appointment perfectly illustrates the dual nature of Egyptian barber surgeon's services. He pays not just for the grooming, the perfectly trimmed beard, and the conditioning oils, but also for the medical treatment, the herbal remedy, and the ongoing health monitoring that Kheti provides. It's a comprehensive package that addresses both appearance and wellness, beauty and health, vanity and practical medical need. As Amenhotep prepares to leave, he examines his reflection in Kheti's bronze mirror with obvious satisfaction. His beard is perfectly shaped, his skin glows with health, and the minor irritation that was bothering him has been professionally addressed. But perhaps more importantly, he's leaving with solutions to problems he didn't even know he had. Advice about his writing posture, herbs for his sleep troubles, and the reassurance that comes from a thorough health check by someone he trusts completely. Same time next month? Amenhotep asks, already knowing the answer. Regular maintenance is essential, both for appearance and health. And thank you for catching that irritation before it became a real problem. My wife noticed it too, but she didn't know what to do about it. This is another advantage of the barber surgeon system. Customers receive medical attention as part of their routine self-care, preventing many problems from becoming serious. After Amenhotep leaves, Kheti begins cleaning and organizing his tools, a process that's as much about maintaining hygiene as it is about preserving the instruments. Did you notice how I assessed his overall health throughout the appointment? He asks you. The condition of his skin, the way he held his shoulders, the slight tremor in his hands when he was worried about the tax presentation? A good barber surgeon learns to read the whole person, not just the hair and beard. The months that follow blur together in a rhythm of learning that feels both ancient and timeless. Each dawn finds you beside Kheti, your hands growing steadier with the bronze instruments, your eye becoming sharper at detecting the subtle signs that separate routine grooming from medical intervention. Today, like so many others, begins with the ritual sharpening of tools. But now, you're trusted to maintain some of the simpler instruments yourself, a responsibility that fills you with quiet pride. The razor must sing when it cuts, Kheti reminds you, as you work the bronze against the whetstone. Too dull, and you'll tear the skin. Too sharp, without proper control, and you'll cut deeper than intended. The balance is everything. His words apply equally to shaving a beard and making a surgical incision. And you're beginning to understand that this duality isn't coincidental. It's the very foundation of Egyptian medical practice. Your first real test comes on a humid morning when a young soldier arrives with what appears to be a simple request for grooming. His name is Seneb, and he's preparing for a ceremony honoring his unit's return from a border skirmish with Nubian raiders. His beard needs trimming, certainly, but as Kheti begins his preliminary examination, his expression grows serious. "When did you last eat?" Kheti asks, his fingers probing gently along Seneb's jawline. It seems like an odd question for a barber to ask, but you've learned that everything about a customer's condition matters. The soldier's skin has a grayish undertone that experienced eyes recognize as significant. "Yesterday morning, maybe?" Seneb replies with the casual indifference of youth. "We've been celebrating since we returned. Wine, you know, and not much else." He grins, but Kheti doesn't smile back. Instead, he gestures for you to bring the small bronze mirror, angling it so Seneb can see his own reflection clearly. "Look at your eyes," Kheti instructs gently. "See how the whites have a yellowish tint? And your skin. Notice how it's lost its healthy color?" Seneb's grin fades as he studies his reflection, perhaps seeing himself clearly for the first time in days. This isn't just fatigue from celebration. Your liver is struggling. What happens next is a perfect demonstration of how Egyptian barber surgeons approach health problems holistically. Rather than simply treating symptoms, Kheti begins questioning Seneb about his recent activities, his diet, his drinking habits, even his sleeping patterns. It becomes clear that the young soldier has been pushing his body hard, first during the military campaign, then during the celebration that followed. "We're going to postpone the beard trimming," Kheti decides. "Right now, your body needs healing more than it needs grooming." He begins preparing a treatment that combines several aspects of his training: herbal medicine, dietary advice, and what you're beginning to recognize as an early form of psychological counseling. The herbs Kheti selects are specifically chosen for liver support: milk thistle, dandelion root, and a bitter compound made from various tree barks. But more than just providing medicine, he explains to Seneb exactly why each ingredient is important, how it will help his body recover, and what changes the young man needs to make in his lifestyle to prevent future problems. "Your liver is like a hard-working servant," Kheti explains as he prepares the herbal mixture. "Push it too hard without rest, and it will eventually refuse to work properly. The yellowing in your eyes is its way of asking for help." This kind of patient education is something you've noticed in all of Kheti's interactions. He doesn't just treat problems, he helps people understand their bodies better. Under Kheti's guidance, you assist in preparing a comprehensive treatment plan for Seneb. There's the immediate herbal remedy, yes, but also detailed instructions about diet, rest, and gradual return to normal activities. You watch as Kheti writes out these instructions on a piece of papyrus. using the same careful attention to detail that goes into his grooming work. "Come back in a week," Kheti tells Seneb as he hands over the medicine. "We'll check your progress, and if your body has recovered sufficiently, we'll take care of that ceremonial grooming then. But remember, your health comes first. A perfectly trimmed beard means nothing if the man wearing it is sick." After Seneb leaves, Kheti turns his attention to your education. "What did you observe during that consultation?" he asks. This has become a regular part of your training. Detailed discussions about each case, helping you develop the analytical skills that separate competent barber surgeons from mere hair cutters. "His skin color was wrong," you reply, proud that you had noticed this detail. "And his eyes were yellow. But how did you know it was his liver and not some other illness?" This is the kind of diagnostic reasoning that fascinates you. The ability to look at subtle signs and understand what they reveal about internal health. Kheti nods approvingly. Experience, mostly, but also systematic observation. The combination of symptoms, skin color, eye discoloration, the way he held his torso, even the slight tremor in his hands, all pointed toward liver distress. But more than that, his story made sense. Young soldier, recent stress, excessive celebration with alcohol and little food. The body has patterns, and once you learn to recognize them, diagnosis becomes much clearer. He goes on to explain how Egyptian medical knowledge has been accumulating for centuries, passed down from master to apprentice in an unbroken chain of learning. The barber surgeons are part of this tradition, but they occupy a unique position because of their regular, intimate contact with healthy people. Physicians usually only see people when they're already sick, Kheti points out. We see people regularly when they're well, so we're often the first to notice when something changes. Your training continues with hands-on practice on willing volunteers, other apprentices, servants from wealthy households, occasionally even Kheti himself when he needs to demonstrate a particular technique. You learn to handle the bronze instruments with increasing confidence, understanding that each tool has its specific purpose and proper technique. The small bronze scissors, for instance, require a different grip and cutting motion than the razors. They're used for trimming longer hair, shaping beards, and occasionally for cutting away dead tissue from wounds. The tweezers demand steady hands and good lighting, perfect for removing splinters, extracting ingrown hairs, or plucking out small foreign objects from cuts. But it's the diagnostic skills that prove most challenging. Learning to read skin color, to feel for unusual lumps or swelling, to recognize the signs of various conditions, this requires not just technical knowledge, but also the development of almost supernatural sensitivity in your fingertips. Kheti has you practice on different people daily, learning to detect variations in skin temperature, texture, and elasticity that might indicate problems. Your hands are your most important diagnostic tools, he reminds you constantly. More than your eyes, more than what the customer tells you. Hands don't lie, and they can detect problems long before they become visible or symptomatic. He demonstrates by having you close your eyes and feel along his arm, identifying by touch alone the small scar from an old injury, the slight swelling around a joint that indicates the beginning of arthritis. The different texture of skin that has been repeatedly exposed to harsh sunlight. The integration of grooming and medical skills becomes second nature as your training progresses. You learn to perform a basic health assessment as automatically as you prepare the shaving oils. Checking skin condition, looking for unusual growths, assessing overall vitality. These become as routine as selecting the right razor for a particular customer's beard type. One afternoon, Kheti allows you to perform your first complete grooming session under his supervision. The customer is Kheti's neighbor, an elderly craftsman named Ptah, who has been coming for years and trusts the workshop completely. Pretend I'm not here, Kheti instructs. Treat Ptah exactly as you've watched me do hundreds of times. Your hands shake slightly as you begin the preliminary examination, but Ptah's friendly demeanor helps calm your nerves. As you work the conditioning oils into his beard, you notice something that makes you pause, a small, hard lump just below his ear. Your first instinct is to call for Kheti immediately, but you remember his training about remaining calm and professional. Ptah, you say carefully, I'm feeling something here that I think my master should examine. It's probably nothing serious, but we like to be thorough. Your voice stays steady despite your racing heart, and you're proud of how professional you sound. Kheti appears at your shoulder immediately, his experienced fingers confirming what you detected. Good work, he murmurs to you, then addresses Ptah directly. It's a small cyst, most likely. We can take care of it today if you'd like, or you can think about it and come back. His manner is calm and reassuring, but you can see the approval in his eyes at your discovery. The morning sun casts long shadows across the courtyard as you follow Kheti through what he calls the daily dance. The seamless transition between his roles as groomer and healer that defines the rhythm of Egyptian barber-surgeon life. Today promises to be particularly instructive, as you'll observe him navigate appointments that range from routine maintenance to urgent medical intervention, sometimes within the same customer. Your first appointment is with Nebamun, a wealthy merchant whose trading expeditions along the Nile have made him one of Memphis's most successful businessmen. He arrives precisely at dawn, as is his custom, believing that starting the day with proper grooming sets the tone for profitable negotiations. His servants carry ornate containers filled with exotic oils he's acquired during his travels. Frankincense from Punt, cedar oil from Lebanon, rare minerals ground into powders that promise to enhance both appearance and health. Kheti, my friend, Nebamun says as he settles into the familiar chair, I need to look absolutely perfect today. I'm meeting with palace officials about a new trade agreement, and you know how important appearances are in those circles. He pauses, running his hand through his hair with a slight frown. Though I'll admit, this last journey took more out of me than usual. I'm not recovering as quickly as I once did. Here begins the subtle assessment that marks Kheti's expertise. Even as he begins the ritualistic preparation of oils, his trained eye is cataloging details that most people would miss. Nebamun's skin has a slightly sallow undertone, despite his naturally dark complexion. There are faint lines around his eyes that suggest either dehydration or systemic fatigue. His hands, usually steady and confident, show a barely perceptible tremor. "Tell me about this last journey," Kheti says conversationally as he works the conditioning oils into Nebamun's hair. "Where did you travel, and how long were you away?" The questions seem casual, but you recognize them as part of Kheti's diagnostic process. Travel conditions, exposure to foreign diseases, dietary changes, stress levels, all of these factors can affect a person's health in ways that might not become obvious for weeks or months. 6 months total, Nebamun replies, down to the second cataract for ivory and gold, then across to the Red Sea ports for incense and exotic woods. The journey itself went smoothly, but I noticed I was more tired than usual, especially during the return trip. And I've been having trouble with my digestion since I got back. Kheti's hands pause imperceptibly in their work, a sign you've learned to recognize as significant. Digestive problems combined with unusual fatigue in someone of Nebamun's age and constitution could indicate several serious conditions. But rather than alarming his customer, Kheti continues his grooming work while gathering more information. "What kind of digestive trouble?" he asks while carefully trimming around Nebamun's ears. "Pain? Irregularity? Loss of appetite?" His tone remains professional but caring, creating the kind of safe space where people feel comfortable discussing intimate health details. "Mostly loss of appetite," Nebamun admits. "Food just doesn't appeal to me the way it used to. And when I do eat, I feel full very quickly. My wife has been worried. She says I've lost weight, though I hadn't really noticed." This last detail causes Kheti to exchange a meaningful glance with you. Unintentional weight loss, combined with appetite changes and persistent fatigue, forms a pattern that experienced medical practitioners recognize as potentially serious. As Kheti works, he gradually shifts the appointment from routine grooming toward medical consultation. His questions become more specific, his physical examination more thorough. When he feels along Nebamun's neck and jaw as part of the normal shaving preparation, his fingers linger longer than usual, checking for swollen lymph nodes. His assessment of skin condition becomes more detailed, looking for signs that might indicate underlying illness. "Nebamun," Kheti says finally, setting down his razor and looking directly at his customer. "I think we need to postpone the detailed grooming and focus on your health concerns. What you're describing worries me, and I'd like to do a more thorough examination." His tone is serious but not alarming, a careful balance that acknowledges concern without creating panic. What follows is a masterclass in diagnostic technique. Kheti begins with what he calls the systematic survey, a head-to-toe examination that checks every major body system for signs of disease. He starts with Nebamun's eyes, looking not just at the obvious features, but examining the inner eyelids for color, checking pupil responses to light, assessing whether the eyes appear sunken or protruding. "Look here," Kheti murmurs to you as he works, turning this into a teaching moment. "See how the inner eyelids are paler than they should be? That suggests possible anemia, not enough healthy blood. And notice the slight yellowish tint in the whites of his eyes? That could indicate liver involvement. You lean closer, training your own eyes to see these subtle signs that speak volumes about internal health. The examination continues methodically. Kheti palpates Nebamun's neck, feeling for enlarged lymph nodes that might suggest infection or more serious disease. He checks the merchant's pulse at several points: wrist, neck, temple, noting not just the rate, but also the rhythm and strength. His experienced fingers probe gently along Nebamun's abdomen, feeling for any masses or areas of unusual tenderness. "I can feel some enlargement here," Kheti says, his hands resting on Nebamun's upper abdomen. "Your liver feels larger than it should be, and there's some tenderness when I press. Combined with your other symptoms, this suggests your liver is struggling with something." He pauses, considering his next words carefully. "It could be something you picked up during your travels, or it might be related to stress and dietary changes, but we need to take this seriously." The treatment plan Kheti develops demonstrates the comprehensive approach that makes Egyptian barber surgeons so effective. There's immediate symptom relief, herbs to stimulate appetite and support digestion. There's systemic support, medicines designed to help the liver process toxins and recover from whatever is affecting it. And there's lifestyle modification, detailed instructions about diet, rest, and gradual return to normal activities. "I want you to stop all business travel for at least a month," Kheti instructs firmly. "Your body needs time to heal, and stress will only make things worse. Eat small, frequent meals. I'll give you a list of foods that are easy to digest and support liver function. And I want to see you twice a week so we can monitor your progress closely." The herbal preparations Kheti prescribes are complex combinations based on centuries of accumulated knowledge: milk thistle and dandelion for liver support, ginger and fennel for digestive comfort, adaptogenic herbs to help the body cope with stress and recovery. Each ingredient is carefully measured and combined, then divided into daily doses with specific instructions for preparation and consumption. But perhaps most importantly, Kheti addresses the psychological aspects of Nebamun's condition. "Illness can be frightening," he acknowledges, "especially for someone accustomed to controlling every aspect of their life. But recovery is possible, and we're going to work together to achieve it. Trust in the process, follow the treatment plan, and don't hesitate to send for me if anything changes." After Nebamun leaves, looking both worried and relieved to finally have his concerns taken seriously, your next appointment provides a sharp contrast in both tone and complexity. A young temple dancer named Ankhesenamen arrives for what she calls emergency grooming intervention. She's performing in a religious ceremony tomorrow night, and her usually perfect appearance has been compromised by a skin reaction to some new cosmetics. "It's a disaster," she announces dramatically, pointing to areas of redness and irritation around her eyes and along her hairline. "I look like I've been attacked by angry bees. The head priestess will banish me from the temple forever if I appear before the gods looking like this." Her distress is genuine, but you can see Kheti struggling not to smile at her theatrical presentation. This case presents entirely different challenges from Nebamun's complex medical issues. Here, the problem is immediate, cosmetic, and relatively straightforward, but no less important to the customer. Egyptian society places enormous emphasis on appearance, especially for people whose livelihoods depend on their looks. For a temple dancer, skin problems aren't just uncomfortable. their potentially career-ending. Kheti's examination reveals classic contact dermatitis, an allergic reaction to one or more ingredients in the new cosmetics. The treatment will be primarily topical, designed to reduce inflammation and speed healing. But the real challenge lies in achieving results quickly enough for tomorrow's ceremony, while ensuring that any remedies used won't interfere with the elaborate makeup required for her performance. "We can fix this," Kheti assures her, already reaching for his collection of anti-inflammatory preparations. "But you'll need to avoid all cosmetics except what I give you until after the ceremony. And in the future, test new products on a small area of skin before using them on your face." His tone combines professional confidence with gentle education. Another example of the holistic approach that characterizes his practice. The afternoon heat shimmers off the limestone walls as you prepare for what Kheti calls the teaching rounds, visits to customers who cannot come to the workshop due to age, illness, or social status. Today's journey will take you through Memphis's most exclusive residential district, where the city's elite live in sprawling compounds behind high walls decorated with intricate hieroglyphic inscriptions, proclaiming their owners' achievements and divine favor. Your first stop is the villa of Amenemheb, former vizier to the pharaoh, and now one of Memphis's most respected elder statesmen. At 73, he represents the pinnacle of Egyptian society. Wealthy, educated, politically connected, and blessed with a large family that includes successful children and numerous grandchildren. His compound sprawls across several acres, complete with ornamental pools, extensive gardens, and living quarters for dozens of servants and extended family members. The old vizier receives you in his private chambers, a spacious room lined with papyrus scrolls, precious objects collected during his decades of service, and painted murals depicting scenes from his illustrious career. Despite his advanced age, Amenemheb maintains the dignity and bearing that made him one of Pharaoh's most trusted advisors. But even casual observation reveals the toll that 9 decades of life have taken on his once powerful frame. "My young healers," he greets you warmly, using the title that acknowledges both your medical training and your relative youth. "I've been looking forward to your visit all week. These old bones don't carry me as easily as they once did, and I find myself increasingly dependent on your ministrations to maintain even a semblance of my former vitality." What follows is perhaps the most complex consultation you've yet witnessed. Amenemheb's needs encompass virtually every aspect of the barber surgeon's art. Routine grooming, certainly, but also management of multiple chronic conditions, pain relief, dietary counseling, and what might be called geriatric psychology. His case illustrates how Egyptian medicine approaches the challenges of aging not as inevitable decline, but as a manageable collection of specific problems, each requiring targeted intervention. Kheti begins with his customary systematic examination. But in Amenemheb's case, this process takes considerably longer than usual. The old vizier's body tells the story of a lifetime spent in service to the crown, scars from ancient injuries, joints stiffened by decades of formal ceremonies, skin marked by age spots and the accumulated damage of 73 Egyptian summers. But beneath these obvious signs of aging, Kheti's trained hands detect more subtle indicators of systemic changes. Your circulation has worsened since my last visit, Kheti observes, noting the coolness and slight discoloration in Amenemheb's extremities. And I can feel more fluid retention in your lower legs. Are you following the dietary restrictions we discussed? His tone is respectful, but firm. Even former viziers must adhere to medical advice if they want to maintain their health. I try, Amenemheb admits with a rueful smile. But my cook prepares such tempting dishes, and my grandchildren are always bringing me special treats. It's difficult to refuse without seeming ungrateful. This common dilemma, balancing medical needs against social obligations, requires diplomatic handling. Kheti can't simply order lifestyle changes. He must work within the complex social dynamics that govern an elder statesman's daily life. The grooming session that follows becomes an extended medical consultation. As Kheti carefully trims Amenemheb's thinning hair and maintains his still impressive beard, he addresses each of the old man's health concerns systematically. The haircutting itself requires special techniques. Amenemheb's scalp has become more sensitive with age, and the hair itself is more fragile and prone to breakage. I've been having those dizzy spells again, Amenemheb mentions as Kheti works around his ears. Especially when I stand up too quickly or turn my head suddenly. My family worries that I'll fall and injure myself. This symptom, combined with the circulation problems Kheti detected earlier, suggests blood pressure irregularities that are common in elderly patients, but potentially dangerous if not properly managed. Kheti's response demonstrates the sophisticated understanding of geriatric medicine that Egyptian practitioners have developed. Rather than dismissing the dizziness as inevitable aging, he treats it as a specific problem with identifiable causes and manageable solutions. The treatment plan he develops addresses not just the immediate symptoms, but also the underlying physiological changes that contribute to them. We're going to adjust your herbal regimen, Kheti explains as he continues working. I want to add some preparations that will help regulate your blood pressure and improve circulation. But just as importantly, we need to modify your daily routines to reduce the risk of these dizzy episodes. What follows is detailed instruction about rising slowly from seated or lying positions, maintaining proper hydration, and recognizing early warning signs that suggest an episode might be coming. But perhaps most impressively, Kheti addresses the psychological aspects of Amenemheb's condition. Growing old in a society that reveres youth and physical capability can be emotionally challenging, especially for someone who once wielded enormous power and influence. The former vizier's occasional depression and anxiety about his declining abilities require as much attention as his physical symptoms. Your mind remains as sharp as ever, Kheti assures him while applying conditioning oils to his beard. And your family clearly values your wisdom and experience. The physical changes you're experiencing don't diminish your worth or your contributions. They're simply new challenges that require adaptation, not surrender. This kind of psychological support you're learning is an essential component of treating elderly patients. Your next stop presents entirely different challenges. Kheti leads you to a modest dwelling in the Artisan's Quarter, where a master sculptor named Khentika has been struggling with what modern medicine might recognize as occupational injuries. After 30 years of working with stone, his hands and forearms show the accumulated damage of repetitive motions and constant exposure to stone dust. Khentika's case illustrates another crucial aspect of Egyptian barber surgeon practice: occupational medicine. Different trades produce characteristic patterns of injury and illness, and experienced practitioners learn to recognize and treat these work-related conditions. Sculptors develop specific hand and wrist problems. Scribes suffer from neck and back pain. Farmers face different risks than merchants or soldiers. "The pain keeps me awake at night," Khentika explains as he extends his hands for examination. "And in the mornings, my fingers are so stiff I can barely hold my tools. I'm afraid I'll have to give up the work I love, and I don't know what else I could do to support my family." His distress is palpable. For an Egyptian artisan, losing the ability to practice his craft represents not just economic disaster, but also loss of identity and social status. Kheti's examination reveals the classic signs of what we might now call repetitive stress injuries. The sculptor's hands show swelling around multiple joints, particularly in the fingers and wrists. His forearms are tight with chronically contracted muscles, and there are signs of nerve irritation from years of gripping tools and absorbing the vibrations of chisel striking stone. The treatment plan Kheti develops combines immediate pain relief with long-term management strategies. There are herbal preparations to reduce inflammation and support joint health. There are physical techniques, massage, stretching exercises, applications of heat and cold, designed to improve circulation and maintain mobility. And there are practical modifications to Khentika's work methods that might allow him to continue sculpting while minimizing further damage. "You don't have to choose between your craft and your health," Kheti assures him. "But we do need to modify how you work. Shorter sessions with more frequent breaks, different tools that put less stress on your joints, techniques for warming up your hands before you begin each day." He demonstrates several exercises designed specifically for craftsmen, movements that help maintain flexibility and strength in the small muscles of the hands and forearms. As the day progresses, you visit several more customers, each presenting unique challenges that expand your understanding of the barber surgeon's role in Egyptian society. There's Senepke, a young priest whose perfectionist tendencies have led to chronic anxiety and insomnia. His grooming needs are minimal, but his requirement for herbal preparations to calm his mind and promote restful sleep represents another facet of holistic healthcare. Then there's Merit, a successful businesswoman who manages her deceased husband's trading enterprises while raising 3 young children. Her health problems stem primarily from chronic stress and exhaustion, the kind of multifaceted challenges that require addressing not just physical symptoms, but also the social and economic pressures that contribute to them. Each consultation follows the same basic pattern you've observed throughout your training. Kheti begins with careful observation and systematic questioning, building a complete picture of the customer's life circumstances as well as their immediate health concerns. The actual grooming or medical intervention represents only part of the appointment. Equal time is devoted to education, lifestyle counseling, and emotional support. Notice how every person's needs are different, Kheti remarks as you walk between appointments. The former vizier, the sculptor, the priest, the businesswoman, each requires a completely different approach. This is why our training takes so long and why experience is so valuable. You can't treat people effectively unless you understand not just their bodies, but also their lives, their work, their families, their fears and hopes. By late afternoon, as you prepare to return to the workshop, you carry with you a collection of herbal preparations customized for each customer's specific needs, detailed notes about follow-up appointments and treatment modifications, and most importantly, a deeper appreciation for the complexity and sophistication of Egyptian medical practice. The evening shadows lengthen as you return to the workshop, your mind buzzing with the day's lessons, and your arms laden with containers of fresh herbs gathered during the afternoon rounds. This is when Kheti conducts what he calls the evening synthesis, the crucial process of reviewing each case, preparing customized treatments, and planning follow-up care that transforms individual consultations into ongoing therapeutic relationships. The medicine is like cooking, Kheti explains as he begins measuring precise amounts of dried herbs into small bronze bowls. The ingredients matter, certainly, but the real art lies in understanding how they combine, how they interact with each other, and with the specific person who will receive them. The same herb that heals one person might be ineffective or even harmful for another, with different constitution or circumstances. Tonight's preparation session focuses on 3 particularly complex cases that require Kheti's most advanced skills. First is a new customer named Kamwaset, a middle-aged temple administrator who arrived late in the afternoon, complaining of persistent headaches, difficulty concentrating, and what he describes as a feeling that my thoughts are wrapped in thick cloth. His symptoms suggest what Egyptian medicine recognizes as an imbalance in the body's natural rhythms, possibly related to excessive mental work and insufficient physical activity. As Kheti works with the herbs, he explains his diagnostic reasoning. Kamwaset spends his days hunched over papyrus scrolls in poorly lit rooms, rarely sees sunlight, eats irregularly, and gets little physical exercise. His body has forgotten its natural patterns. The headaches are just the most obvious symptom. His entire system needs rebalancing. The treatment he's preparing combines herbs for immediate symptom relief with others designed to restore healthy sleep patterns, improve circulation, and support mental clarity. The formulation process reveals the sophisticated understanding of pharmacology that Egyptian practitioners have developed over centuries. Each herb is selected not just for its individual properties, but for how it will interact with the others in the mixture. Some ingredients enhance the absorption of others, some provide complementary effects, and some are included specifically to minimize potential side effects or adverse reactions. Watch how I prepare the willow bark, Kheti instructs as he works with one of Egypt's most important pain-relieving substances. Too much heat during processing destroys the active principles. Too little, and they remain locked in the plant material, where the body can't use them. The temperature, the duration, even the grinding technique, everything affects the final medicine's potency and safety. The second case, requiring evening preparation, involves Iset, a young mother who brought her infant son for what seemed like a routine consultation, but revealed a more complex situation. The baby appeared healthy enough, but Iset herself showed signs of what you're learning to recognize as postpartum depression, a condition that Egyptian medicine acknowledges and treats, though not always with the understanding it deserves. New mothers face unique challenges, Kheti explains, as he prepares a gentle herbal blend designed to support both physical recovery and emotional stability. Their bodies have been through enormous changes. Their sleep is constantly interrupted. Their responsibilities have multiplied overnight. Society expects them to be joyful and grateful, but sometimes their bodies and minds need help adjusting to these massive changes. The preparation for Iset includes herbs traditionally used to support lactation and physical recovery, but also carefully selected substances known to have mood-stabilizing properties. More importantly, Kheti has arranged for her to return weekly for what he calls mother's consultations, appointments focused not just on the baby's health, but on supporting the entire family through this period of adjustment. The baby's health depends entirely on the mother's well-being, Kheti notes as he packages the herbal preparation. If she's exhausted, anxious, or struggling with sadness, it affects everything. Her milk production, her ability to bond with the child, her capacity to notice if something is wrong. Taking care of her is taking care of the whole family. The third complex case involves Ramos, an elderly scribe, whose lifetime of detailed work has left him with severely compromised vision. At 68, his once precise handwriting has become shaky and uncertain, forcing him to depend increasingly on younger assistants. But more than just the practical challenges, Ramos is struggling with the loss of identity that comes with no longer being able to perform the work that defined his life. Vision problems in elderly patients are particularly challenging, Kheti explains, as he prepares a specialized eye treatment. We can often slow the progression and provide some symptom relief, but we can't restore what's already been lost. The real healing often involves helping people adapt to their limitations while maintaining their sense of dignity and purpose. The treatment Kheti prepares for Ramosi includes topical applications designed to soothe irritated eyes and possibly slow further deterioration. But equally important are the herbal preparations intended to support his overall health and mental clarity. If Ramosi can't continue his detailed scribal work, perhaps he can transition to teaching, supervising, or other roles that utilize his decades of accumulated knowledge without requiring perfect vision. As the night deepens, you assist Kheti in preparing dozens of smaller treatments for routine customers. Beard oils customized for different skin types. Healing salves for minor cuts and irritations. Digestive aids for various stomach complaints. Each preparation receives the same careful attention to detail, the same consideration of individual needs and circumstances. Every customer deserves our best work. Kheti reminds you as you help grind herbs and measure ingredients. The wealthy vizier and the poor farmer both receive treatments prepared with equal care and attention. This is not just about medicine. It's about honoring the divine spark that exists in every person who seeks our help. The workshop's rhythm during these evening sessions has become deeply familiar and comforting. The steady grinding of mortar and pestle, the careful measuring of ingredients, the systematic labeling and storage of finished preparations, all of it speaks to the methodical precision that characterizes Egyptian medicine at its best. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is approximated. Every detail receives appropriate attention. But tonight brings an unexpected interruption that will test everything you've learned about emergency medical care. A servant arrives at the workshop door, breathless and clearly agitated, bearing urgent summons from one of Memphis's most prestigious households. Lady Nebbit, wife of a high-ranking military commander, has been struck by sudden severe illness and requires immediate attention. Bring everything, Kheti instructs tersely as he gathers his instruments and emergency medicines. When someone of Lady Nebbit's status sends for medical help in the middle of the night, it's always serious. His calm efficiency masks what you're beginning to recognize as significant concern. Nighttime emergency calls, especially from wealthy households with access to multiple physicians, usually indicate life-threatening situations. The journey through Memphis's darkened streets provides an eerie contrast to the day's routine appointments. Torch-bearing servants guide you through a maze of narrow alleys and broad avenues, past temples and monuments that loom like shadowy giants in the flickering light. The city at night belongs to a different world, mysterious, potentially dangerous, full of sounds and movements that daylight renders invisible. Lady Nebbit's compound, when you finally reach it, buzzes with anxious activity. Servants scurry through courtyards, carrying oil lamps and basins of water. Family members huddle in worried groups, and the air carries the unmistakable tension that accompanies serious medical emergencies. You're ushered quickly through elaborately decorated chambers toward the private quarters where Lady Nebbit awaits. The scene that greets you there will remain etched in your memory long after your training ends. Lady Nebbit, normally the picture of aristocratic elegance and composure, lies pale and motionless on her ornate bed, surrounded by worried family members and servants. Her breathing is shallow and rapid. Her skin has a grayish pallor that immediately concerns Kheti, and there are signs of what appears to be severe abdominal distress. When did this begin? Kheti asks her husband, Commander Amenhotep, while simultaneously beginning his examination. His hands move quickly but methodically, checking pulse, examining eyes, feeling for fever or other vital signs. What were her symptoms when it started, and how have they progressed? The questions are rapid but systematic, designed to gather crucial information while he assesses the severity of her condition. The commander's account reveals a frightening progression of symptoms that began just hours earlier. Lady Nebit had retired for the evening, feeling perfectly well, but awakened around midnight with severe abdominal cramping and nausea. Within an hour, the pain had intensified dramatically, radiating from her stomach throughout her entire torso. By the time servants were dispatched to summon Kheti, she was barely conscious and unable to keep down even small sips of water. Kheti's examination proceeds with the methodical precision you've come to recognize as his hallmark under pressure. His fingers probe gently but systematically across Lady Nebit's abdomen, noting areas of particular tenderness and rigidity. Her pulse is rapid and weak, her breathing shallow, and her skin carries the clammy coolness that Egyptian medicine associates with serious internal disturbance. "Has she eaten anything unusual today?" Kheti inquires while continuing his assessment. "Any new foods, different preparations, meals shared with others who might also be ill?" These questions reflect the Egyptian understanding that sudden, severe illness often stems from poisoning, whether accidental food contamination or something more sinister. The answer comes from Lady Nebit's personal servant, a middle-aged woman named Kheti, who has served the household for over 20 years. She dined on roasted duck with her usual vegetables and fruits, Kheti reports anxiously. Nothing different from what she eats regularly. But she hesitates, glancing nervously at Commander Amenhotep. "Speak freely," the commander commands. "Lady Nebit's life may depend on complete honesty." His military bearing doesn't disguise the fear in his voice. This powerful man, accustomed to controlling battlefields and commanding thousands of soldiers, finds himself helpless in the face of his wife's mysterious illness. "She did accept some imported figs from a merchant this afternoon," Kheti continues reluctantly. "Beautiful specimens from Syria, very expensive. She was so pleased with them that she ate several while reviewing household accounts. She offered some to me, but I was too busy to accept." The implications of this information send visible relief through the servant's expression. She realizes how close she came to sharing Lady Nebit's fate. Kheti's diagnosis comes swiftly: severe food poisoning, most likely from contaminated figs that may have been deliberately treated with toxic substances to preserve their appearance during the long journey from Syria. The symptoms, progression, and timing all point to ingestion of something highly toxic, and the expensive imported fruit represents the most likely culprit. "We need to act immediately," Kheti announces to the assembled household. The poison is still active in her system, and every moment we delay increases the danger. But I warn you all, the treatment will be almost as unpleasant as the illness itself. Lady Nebit will need to expel everything in her stomach and intestines, and the process will be exhausting and uncomfortable. What follows demonstrates the full range of emergency medical techniques that Egyptian barber surgeons must master. Kheti begins by administering powerful emetic herbs designed to induce immediate and thorough vomiting. The goal is to purge any remaining toxins before they can be absorbed further into Lady Nebit's system. The induced vomiting, while medically necessary, proves as distressing as Kheti predicted. Lady Nebit, already weakened by hours of illness, struggles through wave after wave of violent retching, while family members look on in horror. But you notice that Kheti monitors every aspect of the process, the color and consistency of what she expels, her vital signs throughout the ordeal, any changes in her level of consciousness or responsiveness. Good, he murmurs after examining the expelled contents. I can see partially digested fig material, and the color suggests the toxins haven't been fully absorbed. We caught this early enough to make a difference. His clinical assessment provides the first encouraging news the household has heard since the crisis began. But purging the stomach represents only the first phase of treatment. Kheti follows immediately with powerful laxatives designed to clear the intestines of any remaining contaminated material. This phase proves even more unpleasant and exhausting for Lady Nebbit. But Kheti's careful monitoring ensures that the process proceeds safely, without pushing her already weakened system beyond its limits. Why put her through this additional suffering? Commander Amenhotep asks anxiously as his wife endures another round of intestinal cramping. Surely she's expelled everything dangerous by now. His military experience with battlefield injuries hasn't prepared him for the complexities of treating internal poisoning. Poison moves through the body in predictable patterns, Kheti explains while preparing the next phase of treatment. What she vomited was only what remained in her stomach. But toxic substances also pass into the intestines, where they can continue causing damage for hours or even days. We must clear everything to prevent ongoing absorption. Once the purging process is complete, Kheti shifts focus to supportive care and healing. Lady Nebbit, now thoroughly cleansed, but severely dehydrated and exhausted, requires careful restoration of her body's natural balance. This phase demands different skills entirely. The ability to provide just enough nutrition and hydration to support recovery without overwhelming her traumatized digestive system. The rehydration process begins with tiny, frequent sips of specially prepared herbal teas designed to replace lost fluids while soothing irritated internal tissues. Kheti monitors Lady Nebbit's tolerance carefully, adjusting the frequency and volume based on her body's responses. Too much too quickly could trigger renewed vomiting. Too little could allow dangerous dehydration to continue. Her color is improving, you observe, as dawn light begins filtering through the chamber's high windows. Lady Nebbit's grayish pallor has given way to a more natural hue, and her breathing has become deeper and more regular. Most encouraging of all, she's beginning to respond more alertly to voices and touch. The immediate crisis has passed, Kheti agrees, though his expression remains cautious. But recovery from severe poisoning takes time, and there can be complications. We'll need to monitor her closely for the next several days. He begins preparing a complex regimen of herbal medicines designed to support her liver and kidneys as they process and eliminate the remaining toxins. The treatment plan Kheti develops for Lady Nebbit's recovery demonstrates the sophisticated understanding of toxicology that Egyptian medicine has developed. Different herbs support different organs involved in processing poisons. Some help the liver neutralize toxic substances. Others support kidney function to eliminate waste products. Still others provide nutrients needed to repair damaged tissues. Poisoning affects the entire body. Kheti explains as he prepares the various medicines. Even after we've removed the immediate threat, her organs need support to heal from the damage already done. Her digestive system will be sensitive for weeks. Her energy levels will remain low until their body fully recovers, and she'll be more susceptible to other illnesses until her natural defenses rebuild. As morning progresses, Lady Nebet shows steady improvement. She's able to keep down small amounts of diluted herbal tea. Her vital signs stabilize within normal ranges, and she begins responding to questions with increasing alertness. Most importantly, the severe abdominal pain that characterized the acute phase of her illness gradually subsides to manageable levels. But the incident raises broader questions about food safety and security that extend beyond individual medical care. Commander Amenhotep's status and responsibilities make him a potential target for enemies who might use poison as a weapon. The expensive imported figs could represent either accidental contamination during transport or deliberate assassination attempt directed at his household. We need to preserve samples of everything she ate yesterday, Kheti advises the commander. If this was deliberate poisoning, the evidence might be crucial for identifying the perpetrator. And regardless of intent, other people in Memphis may have purchased figs from the same merchant. His medical training includes understanding the legal and security implications of poisoning cases. This dimension of barber surgeon practice, dealing with potential crimes rather than accidental illness, requires different skills and sensitivities. Kheti must balance his primary obligation to his patient's health against responsibilities to investigate possible threats to public safety. His careful preservation of evidence and detailed documentation of symptoms could prove crucial if legal proceedings follow. By mid-morning, as Lady Nebet rests comfortably and shows every sign of continuing recovery, you prepare to return to the workshop with a profound new appreciation for the life and death responsibilities that Egyptian barber surgeons regularly face. The night's emergency has demonstrated skills and knowledge far beyond routine grooming and minor medical care. Every case teaches us something, Kheti reflects as you walk through Memphis's awakening streets. Tonight, we learned about recognizing and treating severe poisoning, but we also learned about working under extreme pressure, managing family dynamics during medical crises, and balancing patient care with broader social responsibilities. All of these lessons will serve you throughout your career. The return journey to the workshop provides time for reflection on the night's profound lessons. As Memphis awakens around you, the contrast between the crisis you've just witnessed and the city's peaceful morning routine highlights the unpredictable nature of medical practice. Tonight taught us that being a barber surgeon means more than treating routine ailments. Kheti reflects as you walk through the gradually brightening streets. We must be prepared for life and death emergencies, capable of making quick diagnoses under pressure, and skilled in treatments that can seem as traumatic as the illnesses themselves. Back at the workshop, as you clean and organize the instruments used during Lady Nebet's treatment, the full significance of your training becomes clear. Each technique you've learned, from basic grooming to complex herbal preparations, represents essential knowledge that could someday mean the difference between life and death for someone in desperate need. Every patient teaches us something new, Kheti continues, settling into his familiar chair as the first rays of sunlight stream through the workshop windows. The temple administrator showed us how lifestyle affects health. The young mother demonstrated the importance of emotional healing. The elderly scribe reminded us that aging requires dignity and adaptation. And Lady Nebet proved that sometimes our skills can literally save lives. The aroma of morning bread baking in nearby shops mingles with the lingering scent of medicinal herbs, creating a sensory reminder of how ordinary life continues even after extraordinary events. This balance between dramatic emergencies and routine care, between life and death decisions and daily maintenance of health, defines the essence of Egyptian barber surgeon practice. As you prepare for another day of learning, you understand that becoming a skilled practitioner requires mastering not just techniques and remedies, but also the wisdom to know when to act boldly and when to proceed cautiously, when to promise hope and when to acknowledge limitations. Your journey into the ancient world of Egyptian medicine has revealed a profession of remarkable depth, complexity, and responsibility, one that laid the foundation for all healing arts to follow.